So now we are at the point towards the end of Jacob and Joseph's story arc. What we went over last time was Joseph not refraining to put he blew his cover, right? He took off his glasses and revealed himself to his brothers and was like, please, I want y'all to come to Egypt. Bring our father, bring your children's children, bring your whole family, and I will talk to Pharaoh, and y'all gonna now live here with me. And don't worry, don't feel bad, don't be angry with yourselves about what y'all did, because it was God's will. God sent me to Egypt to put me in this position. Which, I mean, that's if you want to think godly, think like Joseph. Most people, they hold burdens and, I didn't deserve this. I didn't deserve to be sold into slavery. Instead, he said, well, no, this is where God wants me to be. And all of these things happen for a reason, to strengthen me, to grow me, to prepare me for this exact moment, which was to rule over Egypt, save the world, because it wasn't just Egypt that was suffering, and it was Canaan, there was the other lands too. And he explained that to his brothers, and when Jacob, when the brothers went back to Canaan to get Jacob, who was already suffering through so much pressure, stress, anxiety, depression, broken in spirit, what happened? When he heard the news, he saw the proof with the wagons and all that stuff, and that they were going back to Egypt, his spirit was revived. It was revived, right? He was relieved of the stress. So let's go to Genesis 46, and we are going to go straight into the topic of Jacob, or Israel. Verse 1, and Israel took his journey with all that he had, and came to Beersheba, and offered sacrifices unto God his father, Isaac. So immediately, after hearing the great news, after being told the great news, after seeing the proof, the first thing Jacob does is go and thanks God, right? He thanks God and offers sacrifices to God. And again, that's something that we need. Whether it's good news or bad news, but especially when we hear good news, right? We should immediately just thank God. What was the story that it's in the New Testament? Jesus healed all those people.
The lepers.
The lepers, yeah. And all of them, except for how many?
9. 10.
Right?
Yeah.
So a couple of them, or was it one of them?
One.
Yeah, one of them went back to go thank God, right? And this is very similar to, it is the exact same thing Jacob is doing. It's, instead of saying, all right, let's go to Egypt, he said, before I even leave, let me go back to thank God. And that's what we should always do. Verse 2, and God spake unto Israel in the visions of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, here am I. And he said, I am God, the God of thy father. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will there make of thee a great nation. I will go down with thee into Egypt, and I will also surely bring thee up again. And Joseph shall put his hand upon thine eyes. So again, this is probably the first time Jacob is receiving a vision since, I don't even know, it's probably been some years, or for at least from the Bible, right? Maybe he got some visions, but from what we know in the Bible, the last time he got a vision from God was before Joseph was given the visions that he was getting from God. So it's probably been a long time since God sent Jacob a vision. But with sending him this vision, what did it do? It clears up any doubts and strengthens Jacob to trust that this is not a trick, this is not a game, this is not a sick joke or nothing, that Joseph is not actually allowed. No. Trust me, Joseph, fear not. Trust me, Jacob, fear not. Go down to Egypt, right? So God gives him assurance, right? God gives Israel assurance for him to take that journey, right? Verse 5. And Jacob rose up from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried Jacob their father, and their little ones, and their wives, and the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to carry them. And they took their cattle and their goods, which they had gotten in the land of Canaan, and came into Egypt, and Jacob and all his seed with him, his sons and his sons' sons with him, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his seeds were bought he with him into Egypt. And these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt: Jacob and his sons, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and the sons of Reuben, Hanak, and Phalu, and Hezron, and Carmi, and the sons of Simeon, Jemuel, and Jamin, and Ohad, and Jachin, and Zohar, and Shaul, and the son of the Canaanitish woman. And the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari, and the son of Judah, and Onan, and Shelah, and Pharez, and Zerah. But and Onan died in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Pharez were Hezron and Hamul, and the sons of Issachar, Tola, and Fuba, and Job, and Shebron. And the sons of Zebulun, Surid, and Elon, and Jehiel. These be the sons of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob in Padan Aram, with his daughter Dinah. All the souls of his sons and his daughters were 33. And the sons of Gad, Ziphonim, and Haggi, Shuni, and Esbon, Eri, and Arodi, and Areli. And the sons of Asher, Jimnah, and Ishua, and Isui, and Beriah, and Sarah, their sister. And the sons of Beriah, Heber, and Michael. And these are the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah his daughter. And these she bare unto Jacob even 16 souls. The sons of Rachel's Jacob's wife, Joseph and Benjamin. And unto Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, which Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bare unto him. And the sons of Benjamin were Bela, and Becher, and Ashbel, Gera, and Naaman, Ehi, and Rosh, and Hupim, and Ard. These are the sons of Rachel, which were born to Jacob. All the souls were 14. And the sons of Dan, Hushim. The sons of Naphtali, Jaziel, and Guni, and Jezer, and Shalim. These are the sons of Bilhah, which Laban gave unto Rachel his daughter, and she bare these unto Jacob. All these souls were 7. All the souls that came with Jacob into Egypt, which came out of his loins, besides Jacob's sons, all the souls were 66, and the sons of Joseph, which were born him in Egypt, were 2 souls. And all the souls of the house of Jacob, which came into Egypt, were 10. So who's all going to Egypt? Well, there you go. Usually I would go over all these names here, but today, maybe another day. But just know Jacob's children and his children's and all, just that whole big family. Yeah, it's a big family. God has really blessed Jacob, which if you want to look at find a golden nugget here, God has truly blessed Jacob and is being the man of his promise, right? I will make a great nation, from Jacob. But yeah, so these are all the people who are going to Egypt, not to just visit, but to live there. Verse 28. And he sent Judah before him unto Joseph to direct his face unto Goshen, and they came into the land of Goshen. And Joseph made ready his chariot and went up to meet Israel his father to Goshen, and presented himself unto him. And he fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while. And Israel said unto Joseph, Now let me die, since I have seen thy face, because thou art yet alive. And Joseph said unto his brethren and unto his father's house, I will go up and show Pharaoh, and say unto him, My brother and my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me. And the men are shepherds, for their trade have been to feed cattle, and they have bought their flocks and their herds, and all that they have. And it shall come to pass, when Pharaoh shall call on you, and shall say, what is your occupation? And that ye shall say, thy servants' trade hath been about cattle from our youth even until now, both we and also our fathers, that ye may dwell in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians. So Jacob, he selects Judah, right? The man who has shown pretty much out of all his brothers the initiatives, the leadership thus far to speak to Joseph and show him where they should reside. They reside in Goshen, which, if you're looking on the map, is located in the northeastern region of Lower Egypt. And it's, if you look on the map, don't get deceived by Upper and Lower Egypt. Lower Egypt is north and Upper Egypt is south, right? So it's the opposite. Now I believe it's probably because like the mountain range, so it's just on a higher plane compared to Lower and Upper Egypt. But Goshen is northeastern region of Lower Egypt, and it's also east of the Nile Delta. The Nile Delta. Goshen was pretty much tailor-made for grazing or shepherding sheep herding due to the enriching green pasture. So in this case, God has led Jacob, right, and his brethren and his children to reside or to lie down in green pastures. And if one is privy to the geography of deltas, do y'all know what deltas are? What's a delta?
Deltas are like the rivers and stuff. I think the rivers, like the little thing in the rivers, like kind of splits off. In like rivers, isn't that where it, like the starts to split?
Kind of. Well, so deltas, they are, it's an area of land that is built up in the mouth of the river.
Oh, the source.
Yeah.
Oh,
so, yeah. It's built up in the mouth of the river, but it flows into either a lake or the ocean, right?
Oh, okay.
So, like, you go to, like, Louisiana or Mississippi, at the end, leading to the Gulf, you'll see a delta. In the Egyptians' case, the delta is leading into the Mediterranean Sea. And it's not just it's not just the loud part of the ocean. It's a quiet body of water, right? So the stillest part of the ocean or lake. So in the Nile Delta's case, it runs into the Mediterranean Sea, but going to where God is leading Jacob into, he is also leading them beside the still waters. And in the chapter before, we know that God restored the soul of Jacob and even Judah, and now are being led back into the path of righteousness for God's name's sake. Joseph and Jacob reunites, and it's a heartwarming moment. I know I kind of just read right through it, but it's a heartwarming moment. He has not seen his child, his favorite child, in over 13 years, believing that he was dead. And I mean, it even says this, right? He fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while, right? So he was on there for hours, probably, right? Maybe, probably not overly exaggerating at all. But Joseph tells them after that he will go to Pharaoh and to get on the right side of him, as he already is, and convince him that it is okay for them to be shepherds in the land of Goshen. And he tells them, when they meet Pharaoh, to tell him that they have been shepherds all their lives. And was he lying? No, they were shepherds, right? They were shepherds all their lives. But another reason why I also believe Joseph instructs Jacob and his brothers to tell Pharaoh this is also for them to present Pharaoh that they are his humble servants. Again, what does it say that the Egyptians view shepherds as? Abominations, right? So, the Egyptians viewed shepherds as an abomination. So this was a way to show Pharaoh that they were not going to try and overthrow his kingdom or nothing. It's like we'll be the lowest out of the lowest. Thank you for letting us live here. We'll be the abomination, the most hated, right? Humbling, right? I guess you want to see that miracle of a table being set in the presence of the enemy, right? And he thought that was the most interesting thing when we were talking about what miracles do we want to see. Well, here you go. God is not only setting the table in the presence of the enemies, which is the Egyptians, but also they are going to be the abominations, right? And yet God protects them, preserves them, and grows them, as we know when we read Exodus and stuff. Again, it's just a humbling way to become an abomination unto Pharaoh. Now, why was shepherds an abomination to the Egyptians? Now, of course, the historian side of me couldn't help but to do some research on this subject. And the reason why the Egyptians hated the shepherds is a historical one, right? It requires to know history. The Bible doesn't talk about it. Besides, in verse 34 in chapter 46. But the reason why during this time is because of the Hyksos, or they were viewed as the shepherd kings. It was a tribe of people. During the days before Joseph, about like hundreds of years before Joseph, they had invaded and conquered Lower Egypt and ruled the Delta. Right, and so although they never did occupy the whole country, they came from the east and were probably of Arabian descent, Middle Eastern, and are represented by the Egyptians as being a cruel and arrogant race who subjected the Egyptians to great hardships. And by the time Joseph came around that time, they were finally driven out of the country by a coalition of forces under several kings. So they were probably called shepherds because of the simplicity of their life, and which was largely pastoral, not pastures, right? Not the shepherd church, right? But it was sheep herding, farm herding, and semi-barbaric. Matthew, the Egyptian historian, says that they were the builders of Jerusalem, but his reference is probably not to the Jews, it's to the Canaanites, right?
Jerusalem was already around. It was already a city.
Well, yeah, true that, right? But in our case, right? Because some people, the Hyksos, they were the Jews. It's like, they were not the Jews. And so some writers, they suggested that they're the progenitors of the Amalekites, the Midianites, and other hostile nations who opposed the Israelites after the Exodus. Were also descended from the stock of the expelled shepherds. And again, it's not probable that the Philistines, and again, this is just from the Egyptian historians and other people that did the research. But again, just a little fun fact. Let's go to chapter 47. Then Joseph came and told Pharaoh and said, my father and my brethren and their flocks and their herds and all that they have are come out of the land of Canaan, and behold, they are in the land of Goshen. And he took some of his brethren and even 5 men and presented them unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto his brethren, what is your occupation? And they said unto Pharaoh, thy servants are shepherds, both we and also our father. They said moreover unto Pharaoh, for to sojourn in the land are we come, for thy servants have no pasture for their flocks. For the famine is sore in the land of Canaan. Now therefore we pray thee, let thy servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh spake unto Joseph, saying, thy father and thy brethren are come unto thee. The land of Egypt is before thee. In the best of the land make thy father and brethren to dwell. In the land of Goshen let them dwell. And if thou knowest any man of activity among them, and make them rulers over my cattle. And Joseph brought in Jacob his father, and set him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Jacob, how old art thou? And Jacob said unto Pharaoh, the days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years, few and evil. had the days of the years of my life have been, and have not attained unto the days of the years of my life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from before Pharaoh. And Joseph placed his father and his brother and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, and the best of the land in the land of Ramesses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph nourished his father and his brethren and all his father's household with bread according to their families. So, first point, Ramesses is in the land of Goshen, right? So it's not thinking as a state and city, though they didn't have it like that, but it's in the land of Goshen. Also, I want to focus on verse 9 of what Jacob said. So Jacob, he walks into Pharaoh, blesses him, and then says, the days of my years of the pilgrimage is 130 years old. So at this point, he's 130 years old, but he says, this few and evil have the days of the years of my life have been, and have not attained unto the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. I want to focus on that. I think it is a pleasant opportunity to kind of re-examine the life of Jacob to this point, to give clarity to why he makes this comment to Pharaoh, right? What did he just go through? So actually, let's go down the whole list of from his childhood to this point. What did all Jacob went through?
Well, he was born.
That's what he's like.
And then he had his brother come out first. And that's his story? His brother came out first and then went back in. And anyways. And then I think the next part of the story is when he takes his brother's birthright.
Okay.
And then...
And then he runs away.
Why?
Because Esau took it.
Why?
Because he took his blessing.
But why did he took the blessing, but why did he end up running away? Because he already took his birthright, but he didn't run away the first time. But when he, but now he's getting the birthright blessing the second time. And now he's running away for his life. Why?
Because mom told him.
Besides that.
Esau was going to go.
Thank you.
That's what I said. That's what we said before. I was like,
good job.
I said that's what I said before.
Good job.
I was like, what?
So then he goes to his uncle,
Mm-hmm.
and he works for 14 years. Then he gets married.
A wife, two.
Then he waits a week or two. Then he gets married again. And then he works for 7 more years, 14 more years. 7 years?
7 years.
7 years.
Gets married. 1 week.
Gets married again. And then 7 more years.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, he decides, however long after that, he decides to leave. Then his uncle tries to take him back. And he's like, nah, dog, because God was like, you don't speak kindly and you don't speak mean to him, otherwise I will deal with you. And then he makes it back to meet his brother. And then his brother's at peace with him. Then he... Yes. Ends up where he's at before. Previously he goes to...
Alright, now he's an adult, finally on his own, out of Laban's clutches. What else happened? Onto Jacob, or...
He didn't go all the way back where God told him.
Okay.
And then Judah goes off and does whatever. And Joseph gets sold into slavery, but he doesn't know that.
That's it? Anything else?
And then
He has a lot of kids.
he
Yeah,
tells his kids to leave.
you ain't gotta go in order. You just...
He wouldn't be comforted
Okay, then why?
because of his son of Rachel. Sounded weird.
It's all Rachel. Alright. Let's see. What about, what happened to his daughter?
That was when Dinah went to the land.
She went to the land and
Shechem?
shoot him, yeah.
Yeah.
And got a little freaky. And what happened after. What was
Reuben.
the result of that?
His brothers
Reuben,
killed
yeah.
His brothers killed the whole city.
whole city.
Pretty much.
All the males of the city, I guess.
Alright, so Levi, Simeon, and Reuben.
Oh,
What did Reuben do?
Reuben was the one that was gonna deliver.
He's the one that got freaky with his mom.
Oh no, yeah.
He got rid with one of his wives, right? And again, it still blows my mind that Daniel and Naphtali did not get upset at Reuben, or not bitter at Reuben. They hate. That's crazy. How they hate Joseph more than Reuben. Whatever. So yeah, pretty much allows since Jacob's childhood. All right, he is his father Isaac favors Esau over Jacob, right? And I'm gonna say that Isaac didn't love him. I believe he loved him, but to even see that favoritism and notice it in the Bible, letting me know that it was there, it does do something. I mean, imagine your father. Your father favors Alden over all of y'all.
He does.
You're Alden. Hey, Dad, gotta get a new robe. Nah. Here's a colorful robe. Here's some new clothes and this new clothes and all this, and it's like we had hand-me-downs. Like, come on, Dad.
Yeah, it was from Goodwill.
So and for y'all godly kids, you're better. And so y'all godly kids. So, but in this case, right, it probably did affect him in some way, right? It did, because he would have never been if it didn't affect him. Then I don't think he would have been so complacent to deceive his father for the birthright blessing, right? He would have been like, I don't know, Dad's a blind man at this time, and in my day, right? He was just like, for sure, all right, then he gets chased out of his home by his brother. Yes, his mom said you need to go to Laban and get married, but the main reason was because the brother was plotting to kill the man. Word they got around that Esau wanted to kill him. Now Laban, of course, that whole situation, Laban cheats him, deceives him. Now, of course, it was kind of a taste of Jacob's own medicine for what he was doing, but still, nonetheless, Laban cheats him, right? Hey, I'll work 7 years and you can get this wife, right? You can get my daughter. He didn't say which one, right? You can get my daughter. Jacob wanted the youngest one. Who did he get? He get Leah, the oldest one. And then that whole situation, he cheats him. How many times he said he cheated him when he was before?
He changed his wages.
Yeah, it was like 7 times. My father cheated me of his wages, right? So he's cheating of money. His wives are getting cheated of, from Laban. The wives are fighting amongst each other, right? I mean, just imagine being there for, having 12 kids. You get 12 kids, plus Joseph.
Well, a second ago he said he had like 33.
Yeah, he got buku of kids, right? And during those times, because again, it takes 9 months. So what's 12 times 9, right?
A lot.
A lot, right? So for years,
108.
right? Oh, I don't want to do wrong algebra right now. Don't worry, it's early. But for years and years and years and years and years, his wives were fighting amongst each other. How much of a headache would that be? Having one wife is a headache, not explained. But having both your wives just fight amongst each other, that just has to be just stressful. Even at one point when Rachel was like, "Why you ain't bury me a kid?" Trick, it's not my fault. It's God who's letting you not have kids. It's probably something up with you, right? And so again, for years and years and years, they're fighting amongst each other. Again, he's working as a slave, for Laban. Laban tried to kill him when he was leaving, right? Laban had a whole army, and it was like, I didn't get him, right? until God intervened, right? Like you said, God intervened was like, stop, and he was just like, hey man, you didn't let me say goodbye to my kids. They gave that whole, God did a good excuse. Then, of course, Dinah, his only daughter, fornicates with a strange man, right? And then his Levi and Simeon killed the whole town, right? All the males in the town. Judah and Reuben, they practice incest. Judah, with his own daughter-in-law unknowingly, of course. But Reuben with one of his wives, so that has to be vexing. And then his kids plotting, hated his favorite child, right? Hated Joseph. I mean, that would be just vexing that all of you are plotting, are beefing with Alden, right? Y'all know, but y'all beefing with Alden, and and your father knows deep down secretly, he probably want to kill him. Like, my kid might, I need to be careful because my kid might disappear, because of the envy their brothers have. So Jacob has to deal with all of this, right? He's been going through something almost all the days of his life, and in retrospect, he really couldn't catch a break. It was a mixture of his own sins and others, right? Of course. So indeed, he has went through much travail in the days of his life, and indeed, he is younger than his fathers, right? He's 130. Abraham and Noah, they lived, and Isaac, they lived more than 130 years. And it's pretty much the equivalent of, have you ever heard this phrase, I've been through things in 1 year that most went through a lifetime, right? Meaning, though I haven't been through a lot, though I'm not older than most of my fathers and stuff, I've been through a lot of things that they haven't even been through yet. I've been through so much, I've experienced so much in a small amount of time. And that's what Jacob is pretty much saying here. Now, of course, I wanted to read what the commentary said. I'm just always curious about what other people say about this part, specifically of what Jacob said to Pharaoh. And they kind of beat him up. And I was like, wow. I don't think nothing, do y'all think what he said was off-putting or anything? Why?
Because he had been through a lot.
Right. So they're like, well, he didn't add God, or it was just like, I was like, okay, that's weird. Again, they were saying he was bitter and all that stuff, and I was just like, well, I don't think he was bitter at all for a number of reasons. Jacob is still, for one, he's human. And after being lied to for over 13 years, that has to be something I was still kind of, it's going to take a little bit more time than, expected to get over. But I think he just kind of poured out some of those feelings to Pharaoh. And lastly, he blessed Pharaoh before and after, right? So it's not like he just said, what do you want, Pharaoh? What you want? Like, thanks. Done. Walks in, blesses Pharaoh. How old are you? 130 years in the days of my... You have no idea what I've been through, Pharaoh. Like, that's pretty much you just saying, I'm 130, and my days are... I've been through a lot, Pharaoh. You have no idea. God bless you. And then God bless him for doing this for me. And he was a pilgrim. Now he finally could have rest. He sit down, he could die in peace. No problem. Let's go to verse 13. Genesis 47. And there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore, so that the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted by reason of the famine. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the corn which they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. And when the money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, and the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, Give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For the money faileth. And Joseph said, Give your cattle, and I will give you for cattle that money failed. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses and for the flocks, and for the cattle of the herds, and for the asses, and he fed them with bread for all their cattle for that year. And when that year ended, they came unto him the second year, and said unto him, We will not hide it from my lord, how that our money is spent. My lord also hath our herd of cattle. There is not aught left in the sight of my lord, but our bodies and our lands. Wherefore shall we die before thine eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh, and give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. And Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, and for the Egyptians sold every man his field, because the famine prevailed over them. So the land became Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he removed them to the cities for one end of the borders of Egypt, even to the other end thereof. Only the land of the priests bought he not, for the priests had a portion assigned them of Pharaoh, and did eat their portions which Pharaoh gave them. Wherefore they sold not their lands. Then Joseph said unto the people, Behold, I have bought you this day, and your land for Pharaoh. Lo, here is seed for you, and ye shall sow the land. And it shall come to pass in the increase, that ye shall give the fifth part unto Pharaoh, and 4 parts shall be your own, for seed of the field, and for your food, and for them of your households, and for your food for the little ones. And they said, Thou hast saved our lives. Let us find grace in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servant. And Joseph made it a law. Wow. And Joseph made it a law over the land of Egypt unto this day, that Pharaoh should have the 5th parts, except the land of the priests only, which became not Pharaoh's. And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions therein, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. Wow. So even though Joseph is reunited with his family, the family doesn't stop, right? It doesn't stop for Joseph to say, oh, y'all reunited, okay, we'll stop the family. No. Life still has to go on, right? God's promise is still going to happen. God's promises, God's word is always going to happen. The world does not stop for you, not even for the child of God. Right? But though this family doesn't stop, Joseph doesn't stop working. And he continues doing the work of the Lord, and which was to save the world from the famine. And again, great picture of Christ, right? Verse 28, And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years, so the whole age of Jacob was 147 years. And, wow, so Jacob lived extra. He says, this is probably maybe it's just a part of the family gene of them not knowing when they're going to die, right? Because Isaac said, I'm about to die, let me give you this birthright blessing, and he lived like an extra 20 years, and now Jacob, I see Joseph, it's time for me to die, and he lives another 17 years, right? But in the time, verse 29, in the time drew nigh that Israel must die, and he called his son Joseph, and said unto him, If now I have found grace in thy sight, put, I pray thee, a hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me, bury me not, I pray thee, in Egypt. But I will lie with my fathers, and thou shalt carry me out of Egypt, and bury me in their burying place. And he said, I will do as thou hast said. And he said, Swear unto me. And he swore unto him, and Israel bowed himself upon the bed's head. So Jacob is ready to die. He makes a request, which was to be buried with his fathers, Abraham and Isaac, and which is the cave of the patriarchs, which is which land is in it?
Canaan.
Right. And Joseph, of course, accepts, and again, we'll kind of go over the significance of that, God willing, next week. But yeah, the book of Genesis is almost close to the end, even though we didn't start at the beginning. We started towards the middle, but next week I do want to, within the next 3 weeks, God willing, we are going to end Jacob's and Joseph's life, as well as compare and go over how not only Joseph is the similarities between Joseph and Christ, but also the similarity between Jacob and Christ. All right, so let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another day. Thank you for your word. Thank you for not stopping the world